We met John and Jan Phipps as they were finishing harvesting 1,700 acres, much of it corn that will become somebody's corn flakes someday. John Phipps could be the poster child of the American family farmer, hardworking, independent, proud.
I love being part of a tradition and part of a business that's been going on for thousands of years and in my family for hundreds.
Exactly the kind of person senators like Pat Roberts, a Republican from Kansas, invoke when they defend the farm subsidies.
They get up at 5:30 in the morning. They often don't quit till 10 o'clock at night.
Despite some mishaps,
Broke a valve on the truck.
You what?
Phipps says he and his wife are having a great year.
The happy thing is right now, it's really hard not to do well when beans are $10 and corn is pushing $4. It's just, it's a real struggle to lose money under these conditions.
The Phipps will earn $225,000 this year, more than most small farmers. Then there's what they get from the government.
I just got a check in October for another $30,000. So it just shows up. I get $25 an acre for having a temperature somewhere close to 98.6. My personal best, or worst, if you want to look at it this way, I believe it was in 2004 when prices were very low, but the government sent me $142,000. That's a staggering amount of money. I'm a well-educated, middle-aged, never been discriminated against, perfectly competent, healthy American, and all the other Americans chipped in and sent me $140,000.
Phipps gets money when the market price of his crops dips below the government's target. This year, corn's well above its target, but he's still got a check. It's called a direct payment, an annual automatic allowance that goes out to the Big Five. That's the wheat, rice, soybean, cotton, and corn farmers, no matter what. The other farmers don't get them.
It's not all farmers. It's just out of the 200 crops we grow in America, a handful of us have the political wherewithal to extort, well, that's not fair, extract this money directly, and I can get it straight from Kansas City. I have a direct tap in the vein of the U.S. Treasury, and I can extract that money straight to my account, and I do.
We saw for ourselves the access that the farm lobby gets to lawmakers. All these lobbyists gathered late one October night in the Russell Caucus Room, just steps away from where senators on the Agriculture Committee were hashing out the Farm Bill.
The wheat growers are here, there's rice, there's the dairy folks, there's Farmers Union, some of my colleagues at the Farm Bureau.
Mary Kay Thatcher is one of 17 lobbyists with the Farm Bureau.
Do you know anything about the deal on pesticides on food?
One of the oldest and most influential farmers groups.
So if you look around the room, you can find producers of all kinds of commodities, as well as mostly their lobbyists that work here in Washington trying to make sure that the amendments that get offered are good for our organizations.
Among her priorities, preserving those direct payments. True or false, taxpayers will spend $5 billion in direct payments to farmers?
That's correct. It's $5 billion a year. We're projecting that farmers and ranchers through the farm program and the Farm Bill will get on average about $7 billion a year over the next 5 years. It's somewhere in the range of 10 or 11% of the total spending of the Farm Bill. It's not a big piece.
Boy, $7 billion a year would strike some people as a pretty big piece.
If you ask consumers time and time again, they'll tell you, we think our farmers are hardworking, we think they deserve help, we want to make sure that as much of our produce and products here can be produced locally instead of having to import them. We've lived with the problems of having to rely on foreign oil. We don't want to rely on foreign food supplies. They're supportive of that.
As Thatcher worked the room, Senator Lugar, a Republican from Indiana, attempted to cut back the direct payments and use the money to fund food stamp programs instead.
This selective subsidy program, which goes only to certain farmers who grow certain crops, was never meant to be permanent, and I would say it is a likely place for an offset.
Here's how his colleagues responded.
Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman, no. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Crapo, no. Mr. Thune. Mr. Thune, no. Mr. Baucus. Mr. Baucus, no.
The final vote, 17
Mrs. Lincoln,
to 4.
no. Ms. Stabenow. Ms. Stabenow, no. Mr. Nelson.
No.
Mr. Nelson, no.
Thankfully, this bill does not cut direct payments. And I know that direct payments may seem like an easy target or a bank for some, but to those in the fields, our farmers, the direct payment program helps them produce the safest, most abundant food supply in the world.
It's about political clout. And we're really good at walking into Washington, and we're doing it right now. As we speak, people are in the process of negotiating, and we're telling Congress what we will and won't tolerate. Astonishing. Think of any other industry that has that kind of wherewithal.